The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Thanks so much for having me, guys, and thanks for spending some time on a Tuesday during lunch to come here and not only learn a little bit more about LinkedIn, but hopefully further your career or any goals that you have in your job search or career process. So not only am I here to teach you more about LinkedIn and all the things that you can be doing from a professional development standpoint. As Evelyn mentioned, I also worked in recruiting for almost 10 years before coming to LinkedIn. I've now been at LinkedIn for 4 years, and I work every day with recruiters and hiring managers globally to help them find and hire talent on LinkedIn. So let me just start high level really quickly about LinkedIn. So actually, I always get ahead of myself. Before I jump into that, does anyone know how many people are on LinkedIn? How many members LinkedIn currently has? Any guesses?
Millions.
Millions? Very good guess. Any other guesses? Tens of millions? Hundreds? 30 million?
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions? Okay. Good guesses. Clearly, we're just taking stabs, that's fine. So we have 450 million members, approaching 500 million this year. We actually grow at 2 new members every single second, and we're very global in nature. We represent every country. And ultimately, in the US, we have actually more than 90% of the working force. So people who are eligible to work, if you're old enough to work, you're not retired, you're probably on LinkedIn. And heck, if you are retired, you're probably still on LinkedIn anyway, for the most part. But what I find with LinkedIn is that people join it and they don't really know what to do once they've joined. Or they don't even know if they've joined. They don't even know what's going on. And the average person thinks, what else is there to do on LinkedIn if I'm not looking for work? So what I want to start off with today is explaining LinkedIn's mission and vision and sort of why they exist and what they do, kind of their big picture, and then how that relates to our members and how you guys can get the most out of LinkedIn, because there's probably a lot that you can be doing on LinkedIn that you probably don't know about. Sound good? Yeah. All right. LinkedIn's mission: connect the world's professionals to help them be more productive and successful. So when we say connect the world's professionals, LinkedIn really means the world's professionals. Our goal is to get every member of the working force on LinkedIn. We're about a fraction of the way there. So with even close to 500 million, there's 3 billion estimated working professionals in the world. So we not only want to be a one-stop shop of connecting and keeping people connected, but also a one-stop shop for those professionals to be more productive and successful. So on LinkedIn, not only can you look for work, which is what we'll mostly talk about today, but you can stay connected with one another, you can learn, you can volunteer. If you're a veteran, you can even tap into veteran services. So I'll talk about all of those things today, but the idea being anything that you would need to do in your profession, any advancement, any learning, any networking could be done all on LinkedIn. That's the mission. And the vision is to create economic opportunity for every one of those members. So not to just get the members there and be a source of information and help them be productive and successful, but also to create that economic opportunity. If you think about the working force, the global workforce has really changed. It's really shifted. Part of why hiring is so difficult today is because technology is changing so quickly and rapidly. And there could be somebody in the world globally who maybe has a skill set that before the last 5 to 7 years could never have otherwise been connected to those opportunities. So LinkedIn looks at helping people get full-time work. They look at helping companies to hire their staff and employees, but they also look at the freelance economy and what's called the gig economy, where no matter your skill set, you can get connected with the right people who need that skill set. And has anyone heard of the economic graph? Okay. Maybe one thing to write down or research after today is just some articles that have been written or some press releases that we have about the economic graph. I kind of touched on it when I talked about our mission, but as a one-stop shop, here are all the things that you can be doing on LinkedIn today, and these are all the areas of focus that we have as a company to make your life easier as a member. So getting connected with people that you know, that's the number one activity on LinkedIn, is connecting with one another, searching for our old colleagues and classmates and being connected. When we look at the economic graph, that's what we're going for, that every person, every company, every job, every skill set, school, and learning opportunity would exist in one place. Dig into the rest of it. I mentioned the top activities on LinkedIn are really around staying connected. Ultimately, the number one activity is viewing each other's profiles and finding our friends, family, colleagues, etc. But the number two thing that people do on LinkedIn that a lot of people don't know that you can be doing is staying informed through content. We actually have become, in the last 4 years, a content aggregator. So if you think about the Wall Street Journal, the Times Union, all of those publications, anything that they post is also on LinkedIn. And then there is content that people write that is just for LinkedIn when it comes to thought leadership, being a CEO, how did you make this change? So Richard Branson, Oprah Winfrey, most CEOs are on LinkedIn just writing content for LinkedIn only, but then also anything else that they write also comes to LinkedIn. So staying informed in your feed on your homepage, that content can be customized. So if you only care about certain industries, if you only care about certain topics, you can get all of your news in one place. And then the third thing, and probably the most important thing to you guys today, is really the getting hired piece. So someone asked me when we first got here, how does LinkedIn make money? Great question. I get asked that a lot. LinkedIn sells products and services to corporations. So the local businesses of the area, the global businesses, anytime you see a job post on LinkedIn, a career page, you see an ad, that is a paid product that a company is paying for. So for instance, the work that I do, I work with the HR teams, the talent acquisition teams. I train them on how to use the products that they've bought from us. We have something called LinkedIn Recruiter. We have job posts, all of those things. So when LinkedIn first came out, I think people really thought that the number one thing to do on there was get hired. This is sort of to indicate that is still happening, but it's certainly not the number one thing. The number one thing is staying connected, being social, learning, growing, but absolutely still able to get hired. About 25% of our membership actively uses LinkedIn to find jobs and get jobs. And we have about 92% of corporations on LinkedIn today that are invested in some way in trying to find and hire you through their job posts and through the things that they're doing. So we're working with them to try to get in front of you and make your job easier. One thing I'll mention, I don't have this in a slide, but if you guys were asked, do you think it's a candidate-driven market or an employer-driven market, meaning who's in control, companies or employees, what would your answer be? Companies? Companies? Any employees are in charge? That's okay. One hand, yeah.
Yeah, I would say employees.
Yeah, great answer. You win. So it's considered candidate-driven market right now. What does that mean? That means employers feel that it's harder than ever to find talent. And part of that challenge is that there are 450 million people on LinkedIn. People are everywhere now. They're getting information everywhere. They're on every website. They're on Facebook. They're on all of these different platforms. And really, we as job seekers have not been educated and taught the new methods that these employers are looking for to find us. We're not doing a good job at branding and marketing ourselves for roles, but also they're not doing a good job at making it easier for us. So there's a big disconnect right now, and therefore it's harder for them than it's ever been. About 90 to 91% of companies say it's a candidate-driven market. They can't find the people that they need. Now, I totally know what you're thinking. That's crazy because I've been looking for work and I don't understand that. And as a career coach, I work with people every day that think I'm crazy. But, working on the other side of it, that is what the data is showing. And I do know that's how my clients feel as well at LinkedIn. Do you guys know what percentage of jobs are filled through online job advertising? So job boards, job posts, the percentage, if you were to take a guess, how many jobs are filled? Percentage, 80%, 100%, pretty high.
Yeah, I would say about 90 to 100.
Yeah.
And above.
So the latest statistic is 1%. 1% of jobs are filled through online job boards. Now, when I read that stat, I was a little shocked because the stat for a long time has been 20%. So I think even 20%, we would all agree, is lower than what we were thinking. But I've been taking that data to my clients for a few months now, asking them, is it 1%? Like, how many are you filling through your online jobs? And they agree the number is plummeting, that they are not getting qualified candidates online. And to be honest, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why are these jobs online then? Why are we told to apply this way? What's going on? The average recruiter within an organization, if an organization even has a recruiter, has probably 60 job recs on their desk, maybe 50 to 70 job recs. So you see that one job post and you apply to it, and you're maybe one of 100 people or more that apply to it. That person who has to go through your application has 50 more of those that they have to go through. So they're weeding through hundreds of resumes a day. And the reality is they know it's a waste of their time, so they've stopped doing it. And it's not to say that when you're applying online, it's a waste of your time, although I would argue it's not how you should be spending the majority of your time. But what do you guys think is the number one way that jobs are filled today? Connections. Referrals is the number one way. After all these years. The most recent stat was about 80 to 85% of jobs are filled through referrals. So that's what I think. I get really excited about the power of LinkedIn, because before it used to be referrals. Well, who do I know? You know, I had to think up here, who did I know? And maybe I did know somebody there and maybe they left, or, you know, the number one thing I hear from people is, I don't know anyone. But now, because of social media, we can tap into not only the people that we know, people that we've always known, but the people that they know, our fellow alumni, people that we're involved with in other ways. So ultimately, if that's the number one way that jobs are being filled today, that's where we should be spending the majority of our time, is networking and tapping into our network. So let's talk about some things on LinkedIn that you can be doing to do that from a connection and networking perspective, okay? So LinkedIn, again, with 450 million people, 90% of the US working force, chances are people that you've known in your career, your professors, your classmates, your colleagues, they're on here. So getting reconnected with them, finding them again, is easier today than it's ever been. So we have both our mobile app and our desktop. We already talked about the way that you can get connected with people who you already have their email address. You can get connected pretty quickly right from your email inbox. But also just searching for people on LinkedIn is easier than it's ever been before. You can search not only for their name, but maybe the school that they went to, or the job that you had with them, the company that you were at, a skill set. I was a recruiter for a long time. I looked at thousands of resumes. I interviewed hundreds of people. I could never remember anyone's name, but I could remember their whole life story, where they went to school, where they used to work, what they did. So that's kind of the truth of networking, is that you meet a lot of people in your life. You can't always remember everyone, but you remember their face. You remember something about them. So being able to search on LinkedIn is, again, not only easier than it's ever been, but something that we work to make easier every single day. That's why when you're on LinkedIn, we might recommend to you people that you might know because you went to the same school or you worked at the same company. Doesn't mean you do know them, but we're trying to make it easier for you guys to get connected with the right people. So here are just a couple of examples on this slide of sort of how to do that. Again, I already mentioned it. You can search by name, company, etc. Some of the other things on LinkedIn that really help you, though, are groups, and a couple of things I'll talk about in a few minutes. But one of the number one questions I get is, okay, I found this person, or maybe I know someone through somebody else. You know, what's the best way to get these conversations going? Has anyone ever used LinkedIn to send a message or kind of get reconnected with people? A couple of hands. Okay, great. What's been your experience? Like, is that easy? Is it nerve-wracking? Do you question how to use the messaging? What's of value, not value? One thing, and I deal with that a lot with recruiters too, and like recruiters and salespeople are on LinkedIn every day, messaging all day, every day, and they have those premium accounts or those corporate accounts where they have those messages. And the fact of the matter is that even if you don't log into LinkedIn, you're still getting your messages because you set up your email address and you get notified. You get notified, you're not even on LinkedIn, right? So like what is actually happening today is that we're getting too many email messages. Our inboxes are so inundated that we don't even check our email anymore. I mean, I sometimes do a survey of how many like unread emails are in your inbox right now. Any guesses? Tens of thousands. Is that every single time you go to a website, every time you check out at a store, you have to give your email address now. So it's not that we don't care about those 12,000 messages, it's that we know that it's spam. You can tell just by looking at the title and who it's from if it even matters to you. You don't care enough to open it. And I'm with you, it's too much freaking time to delete all those messages. I don't have time for that.
What happened to not giving your email? When my phone alerts me that I have an email, I know for absolute sure it's either my daughter's school, friend, or family.
Yes.
And I love that.
Well, you're very fortunate because I don't think that's what's happening in the world today. Yeah.
I get nothing.
I think what's happened today is that we actually just give our email just over all the time. You can't go to a website and order something online without sending your
You
email.
get your email
Yeah.
and stuff, and it's like, and then you check your email,
Right.
and you're saying, who the heck is that? And I'm like,
I think if you're protecting your email address in that way, you're kind of in the minority, and that's great, and you should probably stick to doing that. But the average person is giving their email address out every time they make a purchase today. I actually have an entire inbox that I just give to marketers or like brands that I never even check, and I still have. Yeah. But I still have all those unread messages. So it's like, you can't, because even for work, I have to be honest, like even giving my work email for different things, for clients that I work with different brands that I work with, I get on these lists for conferences, I get on lists for, like you give your email to one person, you're on a list for everything. So I think no matter, kind of stepping back from whether or not how protective we are of our email, I think what's happening and why we're not hearing back from people or why we struggle is because everyone in the world right now is sort of inundated in their inbox. Not only do they not log into maybe social media every day, but then they're not even really logging into their email, or if they do, they just don't even see it. Like, to be honest, like, the only thing that stands out to me is if it's from somebody I know or like a subject line that matters to me in some way. And so if you're kind of running up against the fact that you don't actually know the person that you're reaching out to, or maybe you haven't connected in a while, one of the pieces of advice I give is really to focus on the title of the message and make them realize it's sort of relevant and personal right there, because I think just getting them to open the message is pretty much the biggest challenge. To get to Evelyn's point though about who can you message and who can you not, on LinkedIn, if you are first degree connected to somebody, you can message them, and if you're in a group with somebody. But on LinkedIn, your network is considered to be more than that. Like if we're first degree connected and we're first degree connected, you guys are considered second degree because you both know me in common. And then if we're all connected and then you're connected to him, you guys are third degree because we all know some people in common. So you can't just message second degree and third degree because technically you don't know them, but you have visibility into them and you can see their profile and things like that. So LinkedIn really tries to prohibit you as members being spammed. So we are a members first company. So we don't actually let companies just send messages to whoever, and we do make it a little difficult to send messages to whoever. We want people to actually know the people that they're sending messages to. So in instances where you are hitting roadblocks, see who you know in common and see if you can get connected through that person, or send them a connection request and things like that. Everyone uses LinkedIn in a different way. The average member doesn't run up against those blocks because they tend to have a robust network of people they actually know that they're reaching out to. But depending on what you do, if you're really in marketing or sales or recruitment, or you're doing marketing, or you're growing a business, you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, you might have a little bit more difficulty. And so in instances like that, I do potentially recommend the premium accounts. My whole feeling on LinkedIn is to do absolutely everything you can for free first and master that before you spend any money. But if you're a business person and you're using LinkedIn and reaching out to people on a regular basis, it is a good investment if you are hearing back from people more easily that way. Any questions on like the first degree, second degree, third, and sort of what that all means? Good? Okay, great. Cool. Again, oh yeah.
You can go first to first degree, right?
Yeah.
What if you want to reach someone in the second degree? How do you reach them?
You either ask the person you both know to send an introduction, or you send a connection request to that person and get connected with them. So when you send...
They will be able to see who your first...
Correct. The thing about sending a connection request that I'll warn against is if you get too many people denying your requests, then you're considered a spammer. So, and by too many, I mean thousands. It's not like 5. It's like, hundreds of thousands, hundreds or thousands. But where I'm going with that is when you do go to connect with somebody to protect your privacy, they have to kind of know you in some way. Like, are you a friend? Are you a colleague? It'll prompt you. How do you know this person? So you can kind of make a little personal message and say, hey, we both know Bob. Would love to chat with you. And then they know how why they should connect with you. So you can personalize that message and say, hey, this is why I'm connecting with you. Are you interested in connecting? Type of thing. And I recommend that when you truly don't know the person, because you don't want them saying no and then that kind of going against your record. Not that it's a record, I suppose, but we talked a little bit about staying informed. I just want to at a high level show you what this looks like with the publishing and the content, especially on the mobile app. If you're already using other mobile apps for your news and you're going from app to app to app, this might be a good one-stop shop for you. You can also customize it. But I mentioned to you that people can publish on LinkedIn and that some of the Richard Bransons and Oprah Winfrey's and Jeff Wieners of the world are doing that. But you guys can do that too. Each one of us as a member can publish on LinkedIn. It's our platform. We call it our publishing platform. I call it blogging. Call it what you will. But if you have thought leadership pieces, if you've been a writer, if you're somebody in an industry that, has a different point of view or a voice, and you're already used to doing that kind of work, you can post it here, and it goes out to 450 million people based on their interest. So it'll mostly go to your first degree connections, but it gets fed into that pulse, into that publishing feed. So if somebody wants to learn more about what you've written about, they can do that by searching for it. So, if you wanted to write a piece on change management, and maybe you already have content elsewhere that you could pull together, this is just another platform for that. So if anybody's sort of in that space of social media, writing, blogging, it's good to know that this is here for you to also tap into a larger network. What I love about LinkedIn publishing is, like, if I put a blog on my own website, I'm lucky if I get a few dozen people over to it. Maybe a few, 100 if I'm lucky. But LinkedIn, I usually have hundreds, if not thousands, with, just at the same amount of effort because of the way of the network. And then the other thing I've kind of touched on a couple of times is LinkedIn groups. This is similar to Facebook groups, if you guys are on Facebook and belong to groups, but the concept here is like 450 million, that's kind of a lot of people to weed through and know who you know or why you should connect with someone. So we have groups on LinkedIn that are really associated to like skills or interests. So if you're in a particular industry, maybe you're a veteran, maybe you are a working mom, you have something in common with people, you can join those groups, and the people that are in that group, whether it's hundreds of people or thousands, they are of the same skill set or thought process as you and like what you're looking for. So I'll give 2 examples. One, when I moved here from the city, I didn't know anyone. We moved here in this area because my husband grew up here, so I knew his friends and family, but I was new. I was born and raised in Florida, then lived in New York City, so I really knew no one here. So I used LinkedIn groups to find Albany and Saratoga related groups to do networking. I also used it to find a New York chapter, an upstate New York chapter of my university, so that I can get connected with my alumni. So that was, it's been a great way. That's how I found a number of the networking groups that I've met Evelyn through and through other things. So, if you're in a new area, if you're trying a new skill. So my brother is a good example. My brother is a software developer. He lives down in Florida. Most software developers are self-taught. They're sort of teaching themselves technologies online. They're, meeting other coders and learning from other coders. So he'll join groups on LinkedIn all the time to find other people that already know that skill set that he can learn from. He actually got his most recent job that way, just because sometimes recruiters and hiring managers will use those groups as well to find people. But ultimately, there could be groups on technology, location. It could be, again, I said working moms, but maybe if you love golfing, if you're retired, if you want to volunteer, if you're a knitter, anything like that. But the concept is it's sort of other professionals or other people that have interests and skills similar to yours or skills that you want. If you're wanting to learn a new skill, using groups would be a great way to get connected with people. When I was a recruiter and I would have to recruit for something I had never heard of before, I would usually join a group and ask some questions because you can post discussions. You can also message people one-to-one, but ultimately I use the groups to kind of learn from the people that are in there, especially when I was in recruiting. But even now, I'll use groups of job seekers to kind of see what challenges job seekers are having, and that'll help me create my webinars and my online content. So it's just a really good way of getting connected. Instead of feeling overwhelmed with 450 million people, you can kind of find a few hundred or a few thousand people that are in the same field as you or industry, etc. Make sense? Questions? Saw some. Okay.
Interesting to me because I'm using it just like Facebook. I get things that some people are on LinkedIn and some are on Facebook, and I get the email and I just go on that. I never go to my homepage of LinkedIn,
Right.
So now I see what I have to do.
Yeah, and what I always say about LinkedIn, I'm about to show you like 3 or 5 more things that might make you feel like, oh my God, there's so much to do on LinkedIn. But what I say is if you spend 5 to 10 minutes every other day checking in, seeing your feed, developing or looking for a new group, eventually you'll get really comfortable with it. You'll get just as comfortable with it as you are with Facebook. The thing about LinkedIn is it's just for professionals. So you don't want to post, this is what I had for dinner tonight. You don't want to post like all of your personal stuff about your children and family, just because that's what Facebook is for. And LinkedIn is going to be more that professional networking. But yeah, there is a lot to do. And so I mentioned Linda already, the online learning. And now I just want to kind of go over, and I'm kind of looking at time, I just want to go through some of the job searching stuff. I know that's really relevant to you guys. And I have a section here on your profile, which is the worksheet piece. So let's get to that. So as I've already mentioned, employers can post jobs on LinkedIn in order to find you. Now, I just told you only 1% of jobs are filled this way, so you might be thinking, why are you showing me this? I think job posts are a really great way to do your homework and to do research, to know who's hiring, to learn more about companies and what they're looking for. I like to use job posts to say, okay, if this is the type of work I'm looking to do, here are 2 or 3 job descriptions that describe that role. What do I already have as a skill set? What do I already bring to the table? How can I be better promoting and marketing myself for those roles? But on LinkedIn job posts, what I will say is we feed data to you about who you know within the organization. So if you're looking to work for an organization and you see that they've posted a job, generally speaking, you can see who posted that job and if you know them, if you're connected to them in some way, and also who you know who already works at the company. So LinkedIn, again, because it's a social site, even with our career development and job seeking products, we try to make it social so that you're not just applying to that job and going into a black hole, but you're actually leveraging your network to get your foot in the door and be a referral. I saw a hand go up. Yeah.
Do you have to be a member to LinkedIn to search those jobs?
You do.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So you just need to have
Not a, yeah, just a free profile.
All right. So in order to benefit on LinkedIn in any way, you need to
Correct.
develop or make a profile.
Correct.
Thank you.
And just, did everyone hear that? All right, just want to make sure everyone hears the questions. So yes, in order to access anything I'm showing you today, you do need to sign up. Okay, so I mentioned that we sell products into organizations that are trying to hire and find you. So the corporate products that I train on are called recruiter, jobs, and talent brand products. But ultimately, doesn't mean much to you other than to know that employers are looking for you. So I think it's important to make their job easier and do a really good job at marketing yourself. And so that's what we're going to talk about next. With that free profile and that membership, what should you be doing? What should be on your profile? So it's a little different than just starting a Facebook profile or something. You really want to be marketing yourself, telling your story. So as a job seeker, I'm going to just give my personal story of how I got hired at LinkedIn so that you understand the power of how you market yourself and what that really means. So I was in recruiting and career services for a long time. I was all of 29 or 28 years old, and I was going through a midlife crisis, of course, because I had been doing this job for a long time and I didn't like it and I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I sort of felt like anything I would apply to online only could be recruiting or career services because nobody would see me in any other way because that's all that I had ever done. So I was having a midlife crisis because I knew that's not what I wanted to do anymore. I found a career coach through a friend, and I started working with her, and we started really breaking down what it is I actually enjoyed about recruiting and career services. And she really helped me to identify the fact that I loved public speaking, workshops, content creation, and all of that stuff. And it was stuff that I was doing in my job, but it wasn't the way that I was promoting myself, because when you're looking for jobs in recruiting and career services, it's not how you promote yourself. And understand, I was somebody who was really savvy about resumes and profiles. I was teaching people how to do this every single day, yet I didn't really think outside the box for myself because there's been this school of thought for a long time of just your resume and your profile are just your titles and the things that you've done, and it's very tactical. So when this career coach told me to start rebranding myself and marketing myself in another way, I kind of thought she was crazy. But I did agree with her that I was already doing certain things that I really enjoyed doing that I wasn't promoting properly. So not only did I revamp my LinkedIn profile, I started doing some workshops in the city to do more public speaking and more workshops, the same exact thing I was doing in my day job, but just for wider audiences to kind of get my brand name out there. It's what I like to do. Hopefully you can tell today that I like doing workshops. So within 3 weeks, I heard from LinkedIn. They called me. Now, what I want to say is I loved LinkedIn and I was teaching LinkedIn every single day, but I had no idea that LinkedIn had an office in New York. And I also had no idea why they were calling me, because they were a website. So why are you calling me? I don't even understand what's happening. But what they said is that they were looking for people who had recruiting experience, but that could teach workshops and do content for recruiters to teach them how to use LinkedIn. And I was like, what? There's a job like that? You're in New York? Please tell me more. So what happened was, that is a job that I never would have applied to because the title was something I had never heard of. Customer success manager, what does that even mean? Also, I didn't know LinkedIn was in New York, and had I probably applied for that job with my previous resume and profile, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. What she liked, what the recruiter liked, and the reason she reached out to me was the workshop, the public speaking, the seminars, and all of that. I wasn't promoting any of that before. So now when I work with my clients, I try to get to the essence of what do you love to do? What do you enjoy doing? What in your roles have you done that's transferable to what you want to do? And how do you craft that story? Because LinkedIn is a social site and it's not a resume, you have a lot more creativity and flexibility in how you market yourself than a typical resume. And one thing I will warn all of you against right now is that I foresee in the next 5 years, we won't even have resumes anymore. People are starting to apply with their LinkedIn profile and their social media profiles. And that's actually what recruiters are doing. That's what we're trending towards, talent communities, online, social engagement, following companies. People can apply from their phone to a job. LinkedIn has 50 to 60% of their traffic coming from mobile devices. So there's going to be a near future date where applying to a job with your phone and not needing a resume is a real thing. And so I encourage people to really get smart and savvy about how they're marketing themselves online so that you can be found by the right employers, but so you can also feel comfortable applying to anything, even if your resume is not required, which makes most people feel pretty anxious. Can you guys tell me, just before I jump in, the difference, though, of what you would include on your profile versus a resume? Because we are still in a world where we need both. So does anyone have any ideas or thoughts around the difference between the two? Yeah.
Well, I was thinking in a resume, and again, you can be as extensive as you want, and it's probably not the best. Or you can consolidate your stuff. And so I thought maybe in your profile, is that what you asked about? Yeah. Take those, and rather than in 2011 I worked here and did blah, 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 maybe take those and put them just in your skill set, so that's what comes across. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
I like your how savvy you are, considering you're not even on LinkedIn yet. I like it. That's really smart. So I want people to build on that. Any other thoughts of kind of like what LinkedIn can help you do with your profile?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that looks like. If resumes will be obsolete, how are we applying for jobs then through LinkedIn? Can you tell me what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So building off of what you said, though, we're kind of entering this phase where we really shouldn't be listing every job, every title, every skill set. It's not to say that you should be excluding things from your resume, but recruiters and hiring managers, if you recall, I say they have 50 to 60 jobs that they're trying to hire for at any given time. They're getting hundreds of resumes. I'm sure you've heard that they only look at your resume for 5 to 10 seconds before moving on. And I'm sure you're probably heartbroken by that statistic and or feeling defeated, but what I will say is you have to get that good as a recruiter at looking at resumes if you're going to do your job. So what are the things that they're looking for? Well, it does apply to the LinkedIn profile as well, so I'll get into that. On your LinkedIn profile, it's very similar to your resume, but there are some key differences, and this image is a little bit blurred. But you're able to have your photo, and you're able to sort of promote your key skills in a way that's different than a resume. But that is what people are looking for at your resume. They're looking for quick hits, keywords to know that you have the skill sets that they need. So with your photo, now I know not everyone here is on LinkedIn, but is there anybody here on LinkedIn that doesn't have a photo? That's okay, totally fine. I've heard every reason under the sun why you don't have a photo, so I'm not going to ask. But what I'm going to say is it is the very first place that our eyes go. So LinkedIn sort of did one of those studies where they put the machine on your head and they see where people's eyes go. Earlier I mentioned you might not remember somebody's name, but you might remember their face. The other piece of the puzzle with having a photo is that people feel more comfortable and more engaged with you if you have a photo. So profiles are 14 times more likely to be viewed with a photo. I'm not going to force anybody here to have a photo, but I'm going to talk about what makes a good photo and why it's important. And know that the eyes are going to the photo because, again, they're looking to see if they know you, do they recognize you, or do they feel comfortable reaching out to you, are you engaging, etc. The other thing is, right underneath your name, there's this section called a tagline. So on the worksheets, I'm about to give some tips for both the photo and the tagline. Now, those are the number 2 places that people's eyes go. So what is our opportunity? So I kind of already set the stage that I think it's important to have a photo, but other questions I get are what makes a good photo? And what should I be doing in my photo? I want you to think about when you go to meet somebody new for the first time, okay? If you're going for an interview, if you're going to a business meeting, if you're at a volunteering event. When you look somebody in the eye and you shake their hand, what do? You smile, right? You make eye contact. You're engaging, right? So now in 2016, sometimes the first impression that someone's getting from you is online. They might Google you, they might go to your Facebook page or to, if they know you, or to your LinkedIn profile. So if this is the first time that they're meeting you, you want to do the same things that you would do if you were meeting someone for the first time. You want to make sure your face is visible, you have eye contact with the camera, you're smiling. It doesn't have to be a professional photo. You don't need a photographer. I would say to focus on good lighting. Lighting makes a big deal. And to feel confident with how you look. Like, this is how I would look if I were going to a business meeting or an interview. I look the way that I look, okay? But let me show some examples. Let me not just talk about it. I wrote a blog about this and did a little experiment. So this is sort of my spin on how important it is to smile. So I've had a lot of people tell me that they have a photo, but they don't smile because they want to be professional. And I think women come up against this a lot. They want to seem professional, and so they don't want to smile. I get it, but I'm just kind of doing a little experiment here. This is what I call the half smile. I'm going to kind of smirk. So you go from serious to smirking. I'm being a little goofy here. Most people don't do this, but I just needed a third example. And then this is my example of smiling. So again, your headshot photo or your profile photo needs to be how you would genuinely be if you were meeting somebody for the first time. And if you go to somebody for the first time and you don't smile, that's a pretty awkward interaction, okay? So I consider smiling to be the most important thing. Feel free to argue with me if you'd like. But the other thing I'll say is, and people have, so it's fine, I won't take offense, I also want to move away from being too personal with our profile picture. So this isn't Facebook, so I just want to be honest about like what makes a good profile picture. I have seen these exact examples on LinkedIn before, so I'm not being crazy. We should not have our wedding photo as our profile photo. I've seen this before. I looked awesome on my wedding day. Best day ever. But I don't show up to business meetings in my wedding dress. Okay, so don't post your wedding photo. And you know, men can maybe get away with it, but you're probably also not going to business meetings in your tux, okay? This is my biggest pet peeve, which is I was out last night and I looked really good, and someone took my photo, and so I'm gonna crop out myself from that photo and use that as my LinkedIn photo. I don't know why that bothers me so much, it just really does. I just sort of feel like if you're out and you look great, take a photo of yourself, take a selfie, stand behind a wall, do something, like, don't do the cropping, because it looks like an afterthought, in my opinion. Don't look like an afterthought. Be intentional about the photo that you're using, and don't put your family and your pets and your children. This is my husband and my dog. I'll actually just give it a quick story about this. I was meeting with somebody, a client, whose photo was two people in the photo. It was like two men, and one man was handing the other man a degree. And I thought the person I was meeting with was the guy getting the degree, that he was really proud of himself. He got this degree. And it turned out the meeting was with the other guy in the photo, that his job is giving people degrees. And he's really proud of that. I'm like, okay, but I super thought I was meeting with this other guy, okay? So let's just make our photos ourselves. Nobody else needs to be in them. And let's just make eye contact with the camera and feel good about photos. Feel confident. Feel like you would if you were going in for an interview. And then the other thing I mentioned was underneath your name, there's a tagline. This does default to your current title and company that's listed as part of your experience, but you can customize it. So one of the things I recommend is just speaking to your audience, like whoever's landing on your page, what is it that you actually do in a way that I will understand it? Because I do feel like in today's marketplace, there's a lot of titles that don't mean anything. Like, for me to be a customer success manager, I promise you nobody knows what that means. I used to be a recruitment product consultant. I had never heard of it a day in my life, right? Even recruiters and project managers and typical titles that we're used to, people don't always know what those mean because they're so overused. So just think about what it is you actually do, and then also what it is you want to do, right? Like if you're trying to do something different or new, positioning yourself as a public speaker or content creator or whatever it is that you want to be hired to do. You don't have to rely on the titles that you've had that people might not understand or know. You can actually use language that the hiring manager and recruiters will understand. So it's an option, and I just point these two sections out on the profile to let you know that it's where people's eyes go first. And based on those two things, they will decide to scroll down and learn more about you or not. And this is true of your resume too. That first section, those skills and qualifications, is what makes a recruiter decide whether or not to keep looking. Okay, so you have a few opportunities to capture people's attention. The next opportunity you have to do that is the summary. And I do apologize that these are not that easy to read. I will get the deck to Evelyn and maybe we can kind of get some stuff out. I'm also going to show you guys a resource today of where you can see this stuff online after today. But the summary is the next section that people pay attention to. And the average LinkedIn member actually doesn't post their summary. They just dig right into their experience. But it's a missed opportunity because you get to speak in first person about who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about. So if you think about it in comparison to a resume, your resume is very tactical. Here are my skills, here's my education, here are my titles, here's what I've done. You can't speak in first person, and you're really not personable on a resume, which is not the intent of a resume. But it is the intent of a LinkedIn profile. So if somebody has both your resume and your profile and making a hiring decision, those two things should be separate. They should be different. This should be more detailed, as we were saying before, more list-oriented, more tactical. Your profile should be more personal. So, okay, you were a project manager. What did you enjoy about that? What made you a good project manager? Why should I hire you? What was your best project? What were your results? You can talk about that in first person in a way that you cannot do on your resume. So both in your summary and in your experience section of your profile, I have the same rule. So my rule of thumb is the first paragraph, 2 or 3 sentences, should be the personal story that you're telling. I love working in this industry. I was a teacher, now I'm doing this. This is how my experience relates to what I want to do. Something personal, 2 or 3 sentences. It doesn't need to be a whole story, a novel. Also, nobody reads anymore. So don't bore anybody. Nobody likes to read, okay? But 2 or 3 sentences. Oh yeah, we're at a library. Everyone loves to read. Okay, just joking. Darn it. But then the second paragraph, again on both sections, either summary or experience, should be that tactical list that we're used to seeing on a resume. Because those keywords are important and you do want to be found because of your skill set and because of those keywords. So what I often recommend is putting like skills, ... and then listing out the skills that you want to be known for in your summary and your experience, like results and what the results were in the same way that you would do in a resume. And if you don't really know what skills and qualifications people are looking for, that's when we use the job posts, because those job posts are going to show you what people are looking for in that field and industry, because they always list the skills and qualifications that they're looking for, and you can kind of cherry pick, okay, these are the ones that I have, and then you pull them into your profile. It's really important that those keywords do exist on your profile, because recruiters and hiring managers and even like-minded professionals will potentially search for you and find you that way.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Are the terms in the summary searchable?
Yep.
Excellent.
So everything that you write in your profile is searchable by keyword search. So what you would use on your profile as your like key attributes and skills. So maybe the fact that you're a project manager, account manager, leadership skills, communication. I also recommend all of your technical skills. So a lot of times people will hire people because they've worked in certain databases or they know certain, technical skill sets, right? So if you have something like that, I would list it. And then again, I would use those job descriptions to see like what are the technical skill sets that they're asking for. So not knowing what really anyone in the room does, I don't have any specific examples, but let's say you were a technical coder, what are the languages that you code in? If you know how to edit video, if you know something about social media, these are things that people sometimes look for. But if you don't know what it is that employers are looking for those particular jobs, that's how I would use the job listings, and that's how I would research. Because you'll start to see a lot of trends and things that are pretty common, and so you'll realize, I have worked in that database and I never thought to list it. Specifically, databases, Word, Excel, anything that you do in your day-to-day job, if you're in hospitality and you use certain POS systems, those are things that might make you stand out in comparison to somebody else. Not every field has that, right? But even like in education and career services, there were certain databases and learning management systems that I had to use in the education field to do my job. So everyone, in today's age, everyone has something that you have to use in your job that keeps track of what you do in some way. So I would just keep in mind those things. And then again, those things that you list in your resume that you consider yourself to be a leader, strong communicator, team player, all of that stuff. Okay? So what the difference though between the summary and the experience is that the summary is sort of the big picture of you and who you are and like what you want to be hired to do. So you don't have to list every skill you've ever had if you don't want to do those things anymore, right? You can really highlight what it is you want to do. But then in your experience, you're going to talk job by job. You're going to highlight what you did in those positions. The last thing I'll add about your profile that's different than your resume is that you can include rich media. So on the worksheet, I list rich media with some squares, but if you have any websites, any videos that you've done, awesome, but maybe they're about the companies that you've worked for, maybe but they're about the industries. There's all kinds of rich media out there now, PDFs, videos, websites. You can tell a visual story on your profile too, which is something that you can't do with your resume. So if you, let's say, are creative and you do like write or create websites or portfolios, or like you have a portfolio site, you could pull that into LinkedIn. The average person doesn't necessarily have examples of their work per se, but there might be some sort of video or project or something in the press that you worked on or that you were a part of, maybe something on the company site that you worked on or a part of. So I'll give my example. Like, I didn't create the content that's on my profile for LinkedIn, but it's about the talent solutions products that I work with. So I have a couple, like a PDF and a video about the products that I support that were created by the company. I didn't create it, has nothing to do with me, but it's what I do in my job. It exists, I put it on my profile, it tells a story. I also have some stuff on my profile that is me speaking in front of the camera, but that's because I do that for a living as well in my business. So I want people to know that I'm a public speaker, that I've done online stuff, that I'm good in front of the camera. So if that's relevant to you, then that would be a good thing to be promoting as well. So I am aware of time. What I do want to let you guys know, there are a few other sections on your profile. Yeah.
On the experience, is it okay to change the order of things? So it may not have been your most recent job that was related to the experience that you're trying to get to. So does it matter the order?
Yeah, I actually feel that it doesn't matter the order. Actually, I would argue on your resume or your profile. I would argue that you should promote first the things that you want to promote first. And then you can have a section. So on a resume, for instance, I would say relevant experience, additional experience. Especially if you're trying to transition and do something different, or if you just graduated and you've never worked in the field. There's ways of positioning like your internships and your volunteering first and your other experience second. So I actually recommend doing that both on your resume and your profile, because they're going to read things in order and you want to catch their attention based on what you really want to be doing. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to speed through this part for a quick second. What I want to show you is there are a couple of other tools on LinkedIn to help that I would like for you to know about. I mentioned getting connected with your alumni. So under interest, which we talked about before, You're on your home page. There's that interests tab. You can go to your university page because you listed your university on your profile and get connected with other alumni. So if they came from the same school, they work in the same industry, this is a great networking tool because a lot of times we don't feel like we know somebody in the field that we want to be working in, but everyone has an affinity towards their alma mater for the most part. So like when people reach out to me from UCF, I'm very likely to speak with them and talk to them because I have an affinity towards where I went to school. The average person feels that way. So if you're trying to build that network, grow that network, get your foot in the door in a company, you can search by companies, by city, location, etc. And the people who graduated from your same school will show up in the results. And you can reach out to them. Do we have any veterans or relatives of veterans in the audience? Great, awesome. So we have a veterans tool, veterans.linkedin.com. And actually, LinkedIn offers free job seeker accounts to all veterans for 1 year. So if people are transitioning from service to the private sector, LinkedIn wants to support them in that. This tool is meant to get people networked together who come from service that are already in the private sector. So again, you can look by company, location, etc., see what branch of the military they were in, and then simply reach out to them because they were in the same branch that you were in, and just say, hey, I see that you're now working at so-and-so company in project management. Do you mind talking with me about how you got started and how you made that transition? So ultimately, really great tools for both alumni and veterans. And the one thing, if you don't write anything else down today, is to go to university.linkedin.com. You actually don't have to be a LinkedIn member to see this. It's a micro site, but this is every tip sheet and every video that covers everything that I talked about today. So putting your profile together, searching groups, getting connected, university.linkedin.com is a one-stop shop for anything that you need to know to get started on LinkedIn. So it's meant for people who are brand new to LinkedIn, who are just getting started, video and tip sheets, okay? Free resource, and you don't even have to be a member.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. .linkedin.com. No, that's fine. University.linkedin.com.
I can't see the dots.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. One more resource I just want to let you guys know about is something called the Volunteer Marketplace. And this you can find just by searching LinkedIn Volunteer Marketplace or volunteers.linkedin.com. Volunteer Marketplace. Volunteers.linkedin.com. And this is a hub for people who run nonprofits to get connected with volunteers. And it's not, I need 5 volunteers tomorrow for my canned food drive. It's, I run a nonprofit and I need legal help. I need administrative help. I need recruiting help, skill-based help, where I'm not going to hire someone full-time because I don't need a full-time person. I don't have the budget, but there's probably somebody in the world that has that skill set who is looking to volunteer and would love to put their skills to use, especially if you think about pro bono legal work or things like that. So what I often recommend is if you're looking to volunteer, this is a great resource, but if you're looking to get experience doing something you haven't done before, volunteering can be a good way of doing that and then using that on your experience section too. So this is a hub for you to get maybe into a new industry or doing something that is based on your skill set but different than you're used to doing. And what I'll wrap up with is just letting you guys know a little bit more about my business in addition to LinkedIn. So I do have a side business for Tucci Career Academy that I've been running for several years. I have online classes, so by going to, and I'll just leave this up for 1 second, hold on, for TucciCareerAcademy.com. For Tucci is my last name. You guys can also connect with me on LinkedIn. But by going to my website, I do have online classes that cover everything A to Z that you need to know as a job seeker. So everything I talked about today with like your profile, your brand, but digging deeper, interviewing, networking, anything associated to job searching in 2016. I have online classes that you guys can take a look at. Some are free, some are paid. And I also do one-to-one coaching. So I actually have a group coaching programs that I do and one-to-one. If that's something that you or anyone that you know that needs help with, I'm more than happy to help. I really love what I do at LinkedIn. I love coaching. I really believe that through your relationships and the people that you know, you can do anything that you want to do, that it comes down to who you know and how you market yourself. So that's sort of my position in the world. I only kept you a few minutes over, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to stay longer and help you guys out. Thank you.